Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation to talk today. And we're going to cover some aspects of what I call printed hybrid electronics. How do you take additive manufacturing methods and use them to fabricate electronic circuits and components? I think something that probably everybody in this audience is involved in. And so we're at the Raytheon UMass Lowell Research Institute. It's on the UML campus in Lowell, Massachusetts. We're up on the 4th floor. We've got three Raytheon engineers co-located in a university-owned and run facility where we've got 3 professors and, I don't know, about a dozen students. We've got 2 of the professors in the audience today, actually. And Alcom was here yesterday, but had to fly home. And so she and I are the co-directors of the Institute. And we're going to start off by just saying a little bit about what printed hybrid electronics is, give a couple of examples of the advantages of using additive, and then the second example, these PHERF filters, we'll talk a little bit about kind of at the end how it can be cost-effective and a more potentially sustainable, and how we're working to quantify that. And so direct write printing, I think we're all pretty much familiar with direct write printing, syringe, aerosol jet, inkjet. So we're doing a lot of aerosol jet printing at the Institute, some syringe printing. And you can see here we have 2 5-axis printers. One is a syringe printer, the other is an aerosol jet printer. And you can see them kind of, the idea of how you do this 5-axis printing with these types of tools. And so one of the things, and so under a couple of NextFlex projects that we have worked on over the years, Alcom and her students, in this case, Chris Reyes, who graduated about a year ago now, hasn't it been? Almost. And so he did a lot of work, very nice work, to model and simulate designs of printed interconnects. And so you can see here the layout of this model. And so you can see on the left is the printed interconnect version, and on the right is the standard ribbon bonds. And so if you go and look at the models and simulations of this, you might think that because the conductivity of the printed material isn't as good as the bulk material of the wire bonds, you might think that that can be a challenge. But it turns out that because you can tailor the geometry of the printed interconnect so that, and here you've got to have a smooth transition, so you have to have a fillet, what I call a fillet, to give you that nice smooth ramp. And so that ramp is you're coming up above the distance to the ground plane changes. And so in order to keep a 50 ohm match, impedance match, you want to taper out the width of that printed interconnect. And because you can adjust this kind of geometry, which you don't have that capability for with the ribbon bonds, you can get a huge improvement in the S parameters of the printed interconnects as compared to the wire bonds. And this really shows up once you get up to about 35 gigahertz. And you can see here, it's a little bit busy. I tried to color code it. So the insertion loss is on the top, the reflection, the return loss, the reflection is on the top and the transmission is on the bottom. And so you see you've got very low loss in both until you get to about 30, 35 gigahertz, and then the ribbon bonds just tank. But the printed interconnects are good out until about 70 gigahertz. And so this, I think, is a very compelling result that has a lot of impact. But part of the challenge is how much have we de-risked this? how much are programs and